And now for something completely different.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Arthouse To
The FartHouse.
And this week it was my turn to pick, and I decided to pick Great Escapes.
Seems pretty simple, right?
You would think so. I was thinking back to 2020 and what I did to escape what was happening in 2020.
I was thinking about escaping from someone trying to do you harm. People screaming and running in terror.
So we decided to stay with our different interpretations of the two lists, and I am going to kick it off. I started lockdown in 2020 with Brideshead Revisited from 1981. Before Downton Abbey, there was Brideshead. It's a wonderful sweeping tale, originally that came to us in novel form by Evelyn Waugh, about Charles Ryder. And you follow him through the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s. And you follow all of his adventures and his loves, specifically his interaction with a very wealthy family, the Flight family. Jeremy Irons plays Charles Ryder, and he basically made this his own. So much so that when they went to record the audiobook, he is the person that they brought in to record the audiobook for it. The other bit of trivia about Brideshead Revisited that's sort of interesting is that 95% of the dialogue in this miniseries comes directly from Evelyn Waugh's book. And it's considered a benchmark in terms of one of the most faithful interpretations of a book to the screen. The gorgeous Castle Howard in North Yorkshire is what was used as the Flight family's manor house. It's a wonderful, wonderful series and a wonderful world in which to disappear into.
I'm going to pick Race with the Devil from 1974. It's directed by Jack Starrett, who also is kind of famous for directing a couple other movies, but most famous for being in First Blood as Sheriff Art Gall, the guy who starts it all. He gets plunked out of a helicopter by a really great stone toss from Rambo. It's a 1970s movie for sure because it's interested in a couple things: satanic cults and recreational vehicles. There's some weird fascination in the 70s with dirt bikes, with actors in their spare time riding dirt bikes, and these people insist on putting dirt bikes in their movies. So there's car chases, there's RVs, there's satanic cults, and there's dirt bikes. So it's a pretty good 70s combination. I think there's some bell-bottoms thrown in there too, so that's how you know it's the 70s. It's also Warren Oates and Peter Fonda's third movie together. Also, one of my favorite things to realize is that being in a satanic cult is hard work. These guys have commitment. They are following these people around. It doesn't matter. There's new people, there's old people, there's drivers, there's people that throw stuff at the RV. You can't beat it. It's a great movie, and it's got a gut punch of an ending, which is solid.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there's something for everybody, as long as you're satanically inclined.
As long as you're like a, mid-40s year old guy from, the like 70s TV. Yeah, 100%.
The next world that I deep dived into was actually Australia, and a series called Jack Irish. It is also from a novel series written by Peter Temple, and this one stars Guy Pearce as the titular Jack Irish. He was a criminal lawyer who, for a series of reasons you find out about, ends up as a PI/debt collector. There are 3 movies and 2 series, and the 3rd series is actually scheduled to come out this year. It's set in Melbourne, in the Fitzroy suburb, and it's just a really... I love things set in Australia because it's such a different world from the world we inhabit up here in the Pacific Northwest. The Jack Irish series really allowed you to kind of go there and explore different parts of Australia. A great kind of whodunit type of series to get into.
Did you ever watch Jack Australia, who was Irish? I don't know. My next choice was a big hit in 1974. It is the Towering Inferno. It's full of people escaping. It's full of people running into a burning building. So there's that duality. It's also got Steve McQueen and Paul Newman fighting for top billing, which is excellent. Also, it's got Bobby Brady and O.J. Simpson in some serious danger, so if that's your thing. It's got a great 70s cast, and the movie insists on killing a majority of them off, which is really fun. It's also got some of the best stunts, the best fire stunts, the best optical effects. So much great in that movie. It's definitely worth a view.
So to keep the tone a little bit higher, the other series that I did a deep dive into was Slings and Arrows from Canada this time. And this is a literary giant, Shakespeare, that they are bringing to the screen. In a way, because actually what it was, and the reason why I gravitated towards it, is because I was really getting bummed out last year about the fact that we couldn't go to the theater, we couldn't go see live music, all of those things that are kind of live performances. And Slings and Arrows follows a troupe of actors in the New Burbridge Festival, which is a spoof on a Shakespearean festival. It was written in part by Mark McKinney, who you might know from Kids in the Hall. Fun fact, Kids in the Hall actually were here at Scarecrow back in, I think it was either the late 90s or the early 2000s. There are 3 seasons of it, and each season follows the efforts of trying to put on a Shakespearean play. Season 1 is Hamlet, season 2 is Macbeth, and season 3 is King Lear. In addition to Mark McKinney, that some of you guys might recognize, Rachel McAdams, this is before she kind of went out into the stratosphere, as does the wonderful Sarah Polley. If you love Shakespeare, you really cannot go wrong with watching Slings and Arrows.
My next 3 choices have people literally running for their lives nonstop, start to finish of the movies. So my next choice is Nightmare City from 1980, directed by Umberto Lenzi. And this has some of the worst zombie makeup in the history of zombie movies. They're not even zombies, they're infected with radiation, but boy do they act like zombies. But they're the running, screaming kind of zombies where they use tools and knives and stuff to attack you. So it's even better. The movie is fascinated with zombie attacks in different places. There's churches, there's houses, there's downtown, there's airports, and most importantly, there's a TV station where there just happens to be an aerobics class going on, and that just doesn't go well. So they get their heart rates up, but it's pretty briefly. It's a really fun movie. It's not perfect, but I think you'll enjoy it if you check it out. And enjoy the zombie makeup, because it literally looks like oatmeal.
Now I have the first movie and only movie that I'm going to have in my list, but it's actually paired with a television show. Last year, Criterion released Bamboozled, Spike Lee's Bamboozled, on the Criterion Collection. And I actually hadn't seen it before, and so I took that opportunity to watch it, which is an unbelievably amazing movie. So if any of you have not seen it, rush right out to watch this. In there are 2 actors, Damon Wayans and Tommy Davidson, and I was really piqued by their portrayals in it and started doing a little bit of research about them, and that brought me to In Living Color, which is the real pick that I have here, which is In Living Color, from 1990 to 1994. There was this sort of renaissance of African American art in our culture in the 90s. More free expression than I think we're seeing even now, even today, even with the internet. In Living Color is the Wayans brothers, and specifically Keenan Ivory Wayans. It was sort of his concept. And Fox Television, which they don't do much right, but basically they gave him carte blanche. They just said he could do whatever he wanted. And what he brought to television, I would argue, was as radical as what David Lynch brought to television. It was something that hadn't been seen before. It was something very new and very daring. Was it something that you might be able to see on the streets in New York or LA? Perhaps, but not in Middle America's living room. But beyond that, because it was sort of a family affair and all the Wayans brothers got involved, so did Kim Wayans, as well as a few really wonderful female comedians.
Yeah, you think that's easy to do when you're stacked like this. How the are you doing?
What really struck me was just not even the rawness of the comedy, which really is still striking today, but how much representation there was, not just of African Americans, but also of women. And I think it had to do with the fact that Kim Waynes was involved, as were these other three really high-flying, power-punching comedians at the time. The name that most people are going to know and take away from it is Jim Carrey. He was the token white guy. Other people that kind of cut their teeth here, Rosie Perez actually did the choreography for the Fly Girls, who were always in the opening sequence. She was not a trained dancer, but she choreographed, she brought sort of street dancing into a proper arena. And from there, she was able to launch her career. One of the Fly Girls was Jennifer Lopez. There were quite a few people who kind of got their start in Living Color. And most people might know things like the Homeboy Shopping Network, Mo Money, Mo Money, Mo Money, Homie the Clown, which is probably one of my favorite political activists that was on the screen in the 90s. After the first two seasons, Fox really started clamping down and wouldn't allow as much artistic freedom. And so it did begin to change, and it would only last another couple of seasons after that. But those first two seasons are really raw and really powerful, and I would really encourage people to reacquaint themselves with it.
My next choice is 1965's The Naked Prey, directed by and starring Cornel Wilde, where he plays a South African tour guide, safari guide, who takes a bunch of colonialist white a-holes, basically, into the Serengeti and begs them not to be the assholes that they are, and they don't listen. The tribesmen take a bunch of shit, and then they just get pissed and they take everybody hostage and they kill a bunch of people because they have respect for the leader, Cornel Wilde. They strip him down and give him a head start, and then they hunt him down for sport. But he just starts running. It's realistic at the same time as being not realistic, because they probably would have hunted him down pretty quick like. But they're honorable. It reminds me a lot of Apocalypto, where once it starts, it's just on. It's a very similar movie, so if you like that, it's really good. What's amazing is that I read a rumor that the script was 9 pages long, because that's how much of an action movie it is. 9 pages long, and it was nominated for an Academy Award. It's a great movie. Not enough people have seen it. It's a classic. Criterion Collection put a Blu-ray out of it, and it's really beautiful, so I suggest you check it out.
In 2020, the 9th season of Death in Paradise came out. Death in Paradise is a British-French collaboration. It's a crime drama series, which is set in the Caribbean. I would call it a cozy mystery. So a cozy mystery is one in which all of like the hardcore violence and sex and things like that are done off screen. So it's a little bit more, it's not hard-boiled, right? It's a little bit more softer. And
soft-boiled.
Soft-boiled. There we go. It actually was filmed in the Caribbean on Guadalupe Island. For the series itself, they renamed it Saint Marie. It's a wonderful place to disappear into, especially here in Seattle where we get so little sun. To be able to go, each series is 8 episodes, and they're releasing series 10 now this year in 2021. You can have 8 episodes of just being sunbaked and, you know, listening to great Caribbean music, looking at all of the wonderful fruit and food that they're eating while they're solving mysteries on this island. It was just a lot of fun, a lot of escapism, and you know, if you're feeling like you need a little bit of vitamin D injection without the actual sun, this is the place to go.
My last choice is an interesting one, but I thought I'd throw it in there. My last choice for The Great Escape is Ferris Bueller's Day Off from 1986, directed by John Hughes.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while. you could miss it.
I've always kind of looked at this movie differently. It's very funny, it's very entertaining, everybody's great in it, but I've always kind of felt like Ferris Bueller was like kind of an unconditional sociopath. He doesn't follow regular guidelines, regular, like, you know, human, just, you know, established qualifiers, you know, how to live your life. He basically just, like, you know, he has some, you know, criminal need to rope his friends into his little adventures, and he does that, and Cameron's basically like just breaking down in front of him. He's encouraging it, like he's making him more powerful, and he's not, because Cameron's gonna have to go off to school pretty soon, and he's not gonna have Ferris to support him. I mean, the movie is filled with Ferris just doing all sorts of various things, you know, escaping, he's fleecing people, he's lying. At the end, he runs through multiple homes to get back to his home to beat his parents and his sister back to his house so he's not caught. Hey brother, that's breaking and entering. Seriously, you're guilty. Also, it features one of my favorite Charlie Sheen performances, because it's the most accurate Charlie Sheen performance, because it's performed in a police station, and it's utterly believable.
I meant, are you in here for drugs?
Why are you here?
Drugs.
All right, that's it from us at Arthouse To
The FartHouse.
If you have any recommendations for great escapes, please be sure and put it in the comments below. And if you have any topics that you would like to challenge Jamie and myself on, please email us, well, actually email Kevin at viva@scarecrow.com. Until next time.
Thanks a lot, guys.